This particular tree that you're seeing here is called an albizia, and it is a tree that is native to New Guinea and the Solomon Islands. And this particular species of albizia here in Hawaii, it is considered a pest, and it is taking over much of the island. It is considered an invasive species, a weed. So today we are going to kill a few of these trees, and we will do it by ringing their trunks. This, unfortunately, mother tree we can't do much about because it's on the neighbor's property, and the neighbor, being an absentee owner, doesn't do anything about them. So the brown you see are all seed pods, and they're blowing onto our property. And so you see this is albizia here, and that was one there, and I ringed it about 2 years ago. I cut a ring around the trunk with a saw, and that's what we're going to do today. And as you can see, it definitely works. It killed this one deader than a hammer. And you can see there's another albizia over there, and we will ring that one today, as well as the little sapling here. The little sapling I ringed 2 years ago, and it's still going. So we're going to have a look at its trunk and see why did it survive when several of the larger albizias that I ringed didn't. And they die, and it takes them about a year to die and then about a year to rot. So we'll look at this guy more closely here in a minute, and we will ring them, and we'll ring them with a small handsaw right here. This is a very simple process, and you can use it on any tree that you don't like, except not on your neighbor's trees, okay, but any tree that's on your property. So let's start by having a closer look here at the sapling albizia and why did it survive. So we'll go in here and we'll look at its trunk. Now here's the young sapling tree in question here, and if you follow the trunk down right here, you see a whole lot of scar tissue. This is where I cut a ring in the trunk about 2 years ago, and this young fast-growing tree, I guess, responded by growing all of this scar tissue around the cut. And it survived it, and it's still growing, even though some of the larger albizia trees nearby got the same ring treatment, and they died rather quickly. It takes about a year for them to die after you ring a tree, and another year maybe to rot, as I said earlier. What we're going to do to this tree today is we're going to try it again, and maybe I'll cut 2 rings this time instead of 1. Basically, you're going to cut through the bark with a handsaw is all you need, and all the way around the circumference. And you want to cut through the sapwood that's underneath the bark. So maybe make a cut about 1/2 inch deep or so, all the way around. And we're going to make 2 cuts today because, as you can see, this is a pretty ornery tree. So I'm going to get that handsaw, and I'll make 2 cuts here below this, and we'll give it a few months and see what happens. Again, you could just cut a tree down like this if you wanted, but the roots will still have enough energy to sprout new saplings out of the ground. You won't get rid of the tree most of the time. But when you ring a tree, the roots keep expending energy trying to keep the crown where the leaves are, trying to keep it alive. And pretty soon the roots exhaust all their energy, and then the entire tree dies. That's why it's really a better way if you want to permanently wipe a tree out than trying to cut it down. You could take this tree down with a chainsaw, for example, just in a few minutes, but it would be back in a few months. So I'm going to grab my saw over here, And I'm probably going to turn the camera off for a few minutes while I do this. I'll make a couple of cuts around the circumference right here, and then we'll see what happens over the next few months. Alright, I've used the depth of the saw blade as a rough guide to kind of gauge how deep I make the cut all the way around. I made it the same depth as the thickness of the saw blade. So there you have it. We have 2 rings like that. Now all we have to do is come back in 6 months or a year and we should see a dead or dying tree. And just a few feet away, look at this. This is another baby albizia. This one's only about half of an inch thick, and you can see it really does spread like a weed. So I'm going to take care of this little one, and then we're going to go down the hill and look at some of the trees that I killed last year via ringing them, some albizia trees. Here's the dead tree that I showed at the beginning of the video, right here. You can see, here's where I made a cut a couple of years ago with the same saw. Actually, is a different saw, but the same type. You can see some moss or something started growing in that cut, and that killed this tree. It took it about a year, and then this tree's dead as a doornail now. Now this one was a big tree. He's about a foot thick down here near the base, or he was. You can see he's quite dead now, and he's rotting. And pieces of them are already starting to fall. So I ringed this tree about 2 years ago. Even though he's one of the bigger trees on the bigger albizia weeds on the property, he was about the first one to die. And you can see where I made the cut that the tree's bark is already rotted off from that spot. I made the cut right here, and you can see I penetrated into the sapwood in there with the saw. And after about 1 year, this tree was dead, and then another year has gone by, and you can see he's already falling apart. He's already rotting, and big limbs are coming down. So that was done just with a little handsaw and about 10 minutes worth of time.